Welcome everyone to another Asset Management Monday. Let me get some of these screens out of the way. Awesome, I see old faces and new. Anyone who's new on here, let's see. If this is your first Asset Management Monday meetup, can you let us know in the chat?
This is my first one.
Ooh, hi Dave, where are you calling in from or tuning in from?
Rhode Island.
Ah, you are an hour away from me.
Oh yeah, where are you at?
Central Mass, Worcester.
Oh, okay, nice, cool.
Yeah. Welcome, welcome. Okay. So I'm just admitting a few more peeps into the room, and then let me close that up so I can. Hi, Daryl. All right. Let's see if this will work. Okay. Hopefully you guys can see my PowerPoint. I believe so. So welcome. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that thumbs up. All right. So this is the Asset Management Zoom series, so to speak. We hold this every other Monday. So we alternate between this and the Activation Zoom, which also holds on Mondays. Every once in a while, there's a switch up in the schedule. Just going to admit some more people in the chat, in the room rather. All right. And today we are going to be going over the acquisition checklist. And you guys will hear more about that shortly. For those who might be new to this ecosystem period, this is the Multifamily Freedom Chasers community, originally designed to show 9-to-5ers how feasible and possible financial freedom is through apartment investing. No worries, Daryl, you and your baby. Through apartment investing. And we offer a series of educational opportunities, networking opportunities. I talked about this one being one of them. And then on alternating Mondays, that we have an activation Zoom. We also have programming on Wednesdays that alternate. It's either going to be, napkin underwriting, broker calls, broker talks, broker relations, or learning a little bit more about the debt market. Okay, Dan, I am going to kick out your autopilot if it asks me one more time to join this Zoom. All right. We do have a WhatsApp group. So this Zoom, this series is being streamed. It's being recorded on Zoom, obviously, and it's going to be, archived onto YouTube, but it also makes its way onto Spotify. Another way to stay in contact with the entire community is through our WhatsApp group chat, and I will try and remember to put the link in the chat. But that's the QR code for anyone who would want to join who's not already part of the community of the Freedom Chasers, MFC. There is a Facebook group, but not everyone is on Facebook. Okay, so this the asset management series is led by Bibi, who you'll soon hear from shortly. She's down in Dallas, Texas. She's a mom. She's been in real estate for over a decade, and more up here in Massachusetts. And I'm relatively new on my journey in real estate investing. I'm just shy of 2 years. You can reach out to us through Bibi has her email as well as her link tree that has all her other information, website, Facebook page, Facebook group, etc., as well as Instagram. And I have my Instagram link on there as well as my email address. I'm just gonna remove these. Give me 1 second, guys.
If I share your screen, we can't see anything.
Really?
Yes.
What have you guys been seeing?
I don't know. I'm not seeing anything. I don't know if any other person
I
is.
could see your contact us slide. We'd love to hear from you.
Huh,
Yeah.
Really?
Okay. So in that case, let me stop sharing. Do you want to share yours?
No, no, no.
Because the next slide is the first slide.
Yes.
Oh,
That's
okay. Should I go back and share it?
Mhm.
Okay.
Then you can take it down after a while.
Do you see it now or no?
Mhm.
I
Okay.
can also see your contact us slide.
Okay, I didn't want to advance. Okay. All right. So I will stop my blah blah here and hand it over to Bibi.
Good day, not good day. Good evening, everyone. It's good to have us back again. So the reason why we decided to do the multifamily acquisition checklist is because most of us right now are underwriting, or some people are trying to join a team, and some people are looking forward to closing their deal. It might not be now, but maybe in a few months or years, you are looking at closing your deal. So we decided that this is a very critical topic to go through just before you close. You want to ensure that you are checking this box. So I'm going to quickly run through some of the items that we have. But before we do that, I just want to inform us that we just got an LOI accepted on 2 deals, very good return. So any of you that is interested in being a part of it, please reach out to us. We'll put our information on the chat. Right now, we are not officially under contract in the sense that it's just a signed LOI, but not an executed PSA. So we can blab about it right now at the moment. So this is about the deal. So back to what I was saying. So we have identified some few areas that you need to check the box before you move to closing the deal. And the reason why you have to do this is to avoid unnecessary issues during operations. Like I always say, asset management starts from the acquisition. So it's important that this very stage, you go through it so that your asset management journey will be very easy. So the first thing on our list is the financial due diligence. In this aspect, what are the things that you should be reviewing during your financial due diligence? So is at this point where a broker sends you a deal, a broker will send you a deal and give you the T12. T12 is basically 12 months of profit and loss, and is going to give you a rent roll. So your duty is to go through it, but typically they might not give you the standard rent roll or T12, but when you go under contract, they now are obligated to give you the real thing. But sometimes you still find them being very sketchy at that point. But let's just say they are giving you the real financial. So at that point, they're giving you your profit, their profit and loss for the last 12 months. And what are you checking your profit and loss? You're looking at the trends. You're looking at what exactly they are doing in terms of income. You're looking at everything that has to do with their other income. What are things they've done? Because you want to identify your other income aspect. Other income are your value add. These are things you want to do on your property. So, for example, let's assume on their income, you're seeing that they have they're doing ROBS. ROBS is for utility. That means you're charging back the tenant. Let's assume you see that on your rent roll, on the T12, I mean, that tells you that they've already introduced that. So your next thing is, what else can I do to improve on this? So you need to view the profit and loss statement, the rent roll. The rent roll, typically, let me tell you the things you need to, when someone sends you a rent roll, there are some items you need to see so that you can fully understand who are the tenants on that property. So a rent roll must have the unit number. it must have the square foot, it must have the tenant, their name, their last name. It must sometimes maybe their phone number, not all. But it has the rent roll must also have the move-in date and the date of application, the move-in date, and the date the person is supposed to, the lease is supposed to end. You're supposed to have the market rent. The market rent is where the market is currently at in that area. And you're supposed to have, after the market rent, you're supposed to also have the rent, the actual rent that you're collecting. Then some of them will also have some other incomes. That is, maybe they're doing reserve parking or they're doing pet fees. You get to see that. One very critical thing that a rent roll must have that sometimes the broker takes off is the balance. You want to see the balance. Balance is the delinquencies, those that are not paying. You want to know, yes, they've told you that the rent roll, this is what they are getting, but the balance, you need to also look at it to know your delinquencies. Then I think that's a summary of it. Then you have your total. Then you have a summary under it. The summary of that rent roll tells you the square foot of that property, the occupancy, the vacancies, if there are any loss, what do you call it, concessions, maybe for staff, maybe one of the building is used for lease, it's used for a lease office, is going to identify that, yes, it's vacant, but it's not operational and all that. You also see the market fee. Sometimes on the rent roll, you also see those properties that they've identified that they've renovated and the ones that they've not renovated. So a full rent roll should have all these items. It's not just for you to get the rent roll and all that. So under the financial due diligence, you also want to look at the historical income and expense report. So you want to see the trend of how their income has been coming in, the trend, because there are some months that might be down. Is either because, okay, like what we've been seeing in the Dallas market, sorry, I have to use the Dallas market because I'm very conversant with it, is that in 2022, so many people increased their rent. So we're seeing rents going as high as God knows where. But come 2023, we start seeing those rents adjusted. So the rent started going down. So you need to watch out and ask questions. Why is your rent going down? Are you giving concessions? So you want to know if that will affect your projections. So for example, you are seeing in April that they were, maybe for a one bedroom was $900. Then in July, you are seeing that same one bedroom now becomes $750. There's a discrepancy of $150. You want to know what is going on and apply it to your projections and know if it's possible that your underwriting is in the right track. So these are things you need to know. Then before you close your deal, you also want to the next thing you want to do is to assess your market. So remember at the beginning, you started with the market, you checked the market was good, but you should understand that the market trend changes. So you also want to, every time, compare your rent to what the market is doing and know that if it's going to work for you. For example, we went under contract for a deal in 2022 and the market was good. Come January and February 2023, the market shifted. And that slight shift just changed our projections. And we decided not to move ahead with the deal. So irrespective of the fact that you went under contract a month ago or 2 months ago, you need to consistently check the market trend to see if your property is still performing at that level and all that. The next thing for you to do is to evaluate the rent growth potential. So you want to know if the market growth is still there, if there's a growth potential, how much, if I do this on my property, can I get this? Or do I just need to just take over the property and increase my rent, or I need to renovate before I can increase my rent? So you want to check all that. Then the next thing is for you to analyze the operating expenses. This is a very, very critical part. You want to see all the expenses, like one of the deals we've been doing, very funny. I'm going to give you a summary of what has been going on one particular deal. On that deal, we went under contract we wanted to go under contract in December, but we did not. So come 6 months after, the deal was still presented to us and the deal has changed tremendously. everything from the expenses to the income has changed. So for the expenses, insurance for that 2023, we know that was December, has changed 6 months after. It's a different thing entirely. So you also want to check the expenses and know if you're still on track and know if it's going to work for you when you close and all that. So, and the next thing you have to do is to verify the accuracy of reported expenses. So you want to know if those expenses are accurate. Remember, the broker's job is to sell the deal. All the brokers on the deal, either the loan broker, the property broker, any broker, everybody's goal is to sell the deal. So they will give you anything to sell the deal. So you have to verify on your own if my taxes is accurate. So you have to do some extra work yourself. You can do that by getting a tax consultant or call the city or anything to help you out with estimating what your tax will look like. Another thing that can change is maybe the insurance. You want to be sure that the insurance the quote they gave you 6 months ago is still applicable right now. Then you also want to check the utility bills. Is there a recent change in the price of utility? During the time of our hold for one of our properties, I think in October or so, utility company sent us a letter that they were going to increase utility bills. So imagine if you're in escrow during that time, you need to take cognizance of those changes and all that. So analyzing operating expenses is not just a one-off, it's a continuous exercise until you finish. Then the next thing for you to do is to check the tenant payment history. Let me tell you why this is very important. Like I said, you don't want to have tenants 100% occupancy on your property. That's physical occupancy, but economy vacancy, that's what you want to avoid. So you might have 100, the property might be filled up, but what if they are not paying? So you want to know the kind of tenants, first of all, the property has and the delinquencies. If they are owing, then if most of or all the tenants are owing, it should give you a signal that you might need to, one of your plans should be to take them off, or you might need to walk away. So those are things you need to keep looking at doing your escrow or when you're under contract before you close your deal. You need to also check the delinquency account, like I said. So the next priority, the first thing I just mentioned is the financial due diligence. That's the first. All the things I just said are under the financial due diligence. After doing the financial due diligence, now comes the physical due diligence. So now you have underwritten the deal, you've checked it properly, you know that the deal looks well. The next thing for you to do is to check the property. And this aspect, what are you doing in the property? You are checking every CapEx items, things like the roof, things like the electrical, things like the plumbing, all those things that's going to cost you typical large amount. You also want to check some of the units to see the layout. You want to randomly pick some units and do some, what do you call it? That randomly means before you execute your PSA. But once you've executed your PSA, you want to tour the entire property. What are you checking out for when you're touring the entire property? You're checking out for, in case you need to do any repairs. You are also firming up on your CapEx budget. So there are some items you need to do when you take over a property, not just for you to buy it, you also have to improve on those properties. So you want to also know the amount you need to raise if you're doing a syndication, or if you're doing a JV, or the money you need to have to do those repairs. So it's in that period that you are checking out those things. You're checking out the entire unit, checking out if the roof is in good condition, or if some items will need to be replaced. You need to put them under your reserve budget or repairs budget. That when they break, you have a budget to fix it. So those are part of the things you are doing. Then who do you call to help you do those things? You can either call a professional inspector, or you hire your property manager, and the property manager will bring in third-party vendors to assist you in carrying out those activities. it's important that you bring a second eye to look at those things, especially when you don't have those type of skills to identify where there are issues and all that. So it's important that you have those people around you. You want to also check the structural integrity of that property. You want to be sure that you don't have foundation issues. Yes, they have foundation people that can repair foundation, but for me personally, I try to avoid foundation problem. Even when it's fixable, once I see it, that's a no-no for me. I just step away. I don't even look at it. So it just depends on your preference. If you want to do foundation repairs and all that, but my preference is I don't even consider it on the table. So after your due diligence, the first thing I said, financial due diligence, physical due diligence. The next item is the system and utility due diligence. So this time around, you want to inspect the HVAC, the plumbing, and the electrical. So for the HVAC, you want to know the life of that HVAC. You want to know if they are functioning well. For the plumbing, I've repeated this several times. You want to know if there are PVC and not cast iron, or you also, for the electrical, you want to know if it's copper and not aluminum, because all these things have implication. And if there are those things, you also need to find out if they've been remendated. Remendated means that it's been converted to what do you call it, to either copper and all that. So you want to know, and you want to know the implication on your insurance of the lender as well. You also want to know the lender's preference for such issues like that. So it's important that you know exactly what you're buying before you go through it. So under the system, systems and utilities, you're also reviewing the maintenance record. So you're checking out what is the typical work order that they have. So you're checking out that record to identify what the challenge of that property is, to know if it's maybe they're having a lot of leakages. That should send a signal that they have a lot of plumbing issues. If they're having a boiler or HVAC, you should know that. Get ready to replace some HVACs or boilers and all that. So when you're checking the maintenance record, you identify the kind of consistent or recurring problems that they normally have on that property. The next thing you want to do before you close on your deal is to assess the environmental. This is a typical requirement from your lender. Your lender wants to see an environmental report. This can create an issue for you if that property does not pass environmental. So you might not be able to even close on it, and it might be expensive to remediate, to correct and all that. So you should know that you must conduct an environmental report on your deal before you close. The unit inspection. So you want to ensure that the individual units are in compliance. I said this the last time, I can't remember, when we were talking about a property we wanted to put under contract. And while we were at it, we asked for, doing our due diligence, we asked for the original property survey. And why did we ask for that? We wanted to see if there were any alterations between the time where we bought where they bought the property, or the beginning of that property to date. And we discovered that the owner introduced 10 more units on that property without compliance, without permits, without anything. So that would have posed a lot of challenge for us during that time. So you want to verify the units and see if they are all in compliance, and if they need upgrade. So these are some of the things I should be doing. Then I have some more lists to go. We have the legal and compliance due diligence. You also want to find out the title search and survey if there are any lien on it. You want to know if there are any lien on it, or it's in compliance with the zoning of that area. Most importantly, the next thing you want to do is to do your lease, check the lease agreement. You want to know what kind of contract that they have in place. We took up a deal, and in that contract, the lease agreement, we found out that the owner gave about 3 people 6 years lease. So that means if we were doing our underwriting and projecting that we're going to increase rents for all the units, you should know that those 6 units, you'll not be increasing them for the next 6 years. So you want to also be sure that you don't have those issues. So you need to review the lease. You also want to assess through the lease, there's something they call lease audit. You want to know what kind of job those people do. Are they white collar or blue collar, or who are they? You want to assess that lease. You want to know how much they earn as income through their lease. You want to know you just want to put a profile on them to know who exactly are these people. Are they, how many months or years is their lease? How long do they have to stay? When are they going? All these things will help you doing your projection. So how will that help you do your projection? So for example, it can help you do your forecast. So if half of the tenants are supposed to leave, let's say you're buying a property in June, and 80% of the tenants have renewed in April of that same year. And your projection is that I'm going to increase rent and boost it up and all that. You should also know that you'll not be able to renew those ones until you get to April. So that might kind of affect your projections. So you want to check the lease and know exactly when you can make an increase. So I typically do this when I'm doing, I kind of do my own. I've said it every time that is the property manager that's supposed to do the budget, but because I also want to know some things, I prepare my own budget. So in that, I'm also trying to factor in where my increases will come from. What months can I increase my rent? So assuming I'm in January and I have 3 people that their lease is going to expire in February, I know that I can increase only 3 people's lease in February. Let's say I'm in March and I have 10 people living in April, I know I can increase only 10. So this is very important for you to be able to do your projection properly, that I can actually increase this number of people at the time of my takeover. So this is a lot of work. It's like we always say, multifamily is not a one-man show. I've tried to do it on my own. I typically do all the stages on my own, but it's a lot of work. I don't enjoy doing it alone, So, but if you like numbers and you like technical stuff, you love to analyze, this is a very good role for you to play. So you want to know. You want to review the existing leases and the terms, and you want to, because you are mandated to conform to the terms until the lease expires. So you want to know exactly what the current seller or the buyer, the seller has on the lease, so that you can plan your own the way you want to go about your deal at the time of the renewal and all that. So you also want to assess the demand of each unit. There's something they call score box score. Yeah, box score it gives you a comprehensive view of the property. It tells you how many people have searched for your property, how your property is performing in a month, how many people have called and all that. And also it tells you which of your layout. So if you have a 2-bedroom, 1-bedroom, 3-bedroom, it tells you which of your layout is getting so much attention and which of those the layouts is not getting attention. So through your boss score is always in the management software. So when you open your property management software that you use, you can click or go to your search button, put boss score. It's going to give you a list of how your property is performing, how many people are looking at it, which one has the highest traffic and all that. So you want to know which of those layouts is really attracting people. And you might want to, how will I put it? You might want to do some kind of customized demand, meaning that if everybody is asking for a 1-bedroom and less people asking for 2-bedroom, 2 things. You either make your 1-bedroom, you can easily increase the rent in that 1-bedroom because there's high demand for that 1-bedroom. Because there's high demand, you can play around with numbers. I'm not asking you to be very super aggressive, but it means that there's a room for you to make some adjustments. But in a case whereby let's say your 2-bedroom is not performing well, you can ask questions and know, is that how all the 2-bedrooms in the market is performing? Or is it that mine is not up to the standard of where my competitors are? So you also want to know what your competitors are doing with those 2-bedrooms. And if, for example, you check and everything looks good with your competitors and it just feels like it's just the property you are buying that has the 2-bedroom issues, now that tells you that it's either they are not marketing it well or they are not converting it well. So you can have high traffic, but your conversion can be low. So it's either the property manager does not have good presentation, 0, or they are not able to convert the traffic to, there's something going on. Maybe the property that the unit they are touring, because sometimes they tour a unit to see how others look like. So it's possible that the unit they are touring does not look good and all that. So you also want to know what is affecting the demand of each layout of that property, which one is performing well, which one can I easily raise rent, and which one can I be very conservative on because I know that I might not be able to. Then the next thing you want to do is your competitive analysis. So you want to identify the comps. You want to know what your market competitors are doing. This is not a one-off event. You typically do it 3 to twice a year. So it's a duty of your property manager or yourself, since you're still under contract, you can ask your property, before you close, you can ask your property management company to help you do that legwork to find out what your competitors are doing, or you go around and comb. We've done it both ways. We've had someone on our team call around properties to ask how much they are collecting on each square foot and all that. We've had a property manager do it. So any way that you feel that you can get, that can give you the right response, you can go about it in that way. You also want to check the local market trend. So we saw one of the properties we have in Dallas, we noticed that the 1-bedrooms were going very fast and the 2-bedrooms were staying longer in the market. And what were we seeing? We realized that because of the economic crunch, people were scaling down. So the market trend was scale down, scale down, scale down. So we're seeing a bump in 1-bedroom than the 2-bedroom. But of recent, we've seen that the 2-bedroom have caught up. So you want to watch what the market is doing you want to watch what the market is doing at every point in time. Then the next thing for you to do, after you've gotten all this information, your pro forma analysis. Your pro forma is your projections. These are not real numbers. You are assuming that if you do A, you will get B and C. So that is a pro forma. So it's like garbage in, garbage out. Whatever you put in, that's what you will get. So if you are projecting that you're going to see a rent bump of 10%, that's what you will see. It does not mean that it's the actual. That is why we always compare the actual with the pro forma. So you want to check out your pro forma, do a sensitivity test on your pro forma to know what if everything does not work out like I envisaged that is going to work out. How will this deal play out? So, for example, let's assume in my pro forma, I'm saying that will be 5% vacant. And let's assume something happens to the market and I lose and I become 10%. How would that play out in my deal? Will the deal still work? So that's a risk test, sensitivity analysis. You want to know at what point do you break even. You also want to create a detailed financial projection. It's at this point you are creating your, your business plan and all that. You're including your income, expenses, and net operating income. You're checking all those things in your pro forma each year. What am I making each year in my pro forma? Then the next thing you are doing is your capital expenditure. So this is your CapEx budget. You want to create your CapEx budget. What are the interior or the exterior? How much is it going to cost me to do my upgrade and all that? So you want to know, not just for you. I did a video recently and I was talking about doing renovations on your property. You have to check the returns on every renovation you do. So, for example, you intend to do a renovation on your property, and what is the returns that's supposed to give? Is it going to give you a $50, $50 rent bump or $100 rent bump throughout the whole period? If it's not going to give you anything, anything significant, then there's really no need for you to renovate the property. Because we see some people, they buy property and they just want to renovate. Some of them just want to do a full-blown renovation, premium renovation, whereas the demography doesn't even meet that, because you cannot attract anybody. It's not going to, you attract the same people on that in that market. It's not going to give you any value. So you also want to know the kind of upgrade you want to do, the amount, and set the budget. Then the last thing before, because I said something, you make money when you buy multifamily, not when you are selling. So it's at the beginning you make your money. I did a video on that. You make money when you buy, not when you're selling. So if you don't buy right, your exit is going to have an issue. So among the checklists you want to take cognizance of is your exit strategy. You want to identify your exit potential. Is it refinance? Is it sales? So last year, when everybody was underwriting, because we didn't know where the market was going to, or nobody knows where the interest rate will fall in 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. So people were underwriting without putting refinance. We're just saying, okay, in 5 years I will sell. Before now, it wasn't that way. You could say in 3 years I will refinance and I will sell after 6 years, 7 years, 10 years. So it's at the beginning when you are doing all this, because you've checked the market, you are checking the market, you're checking the economy, everything, you're putting them in the right perspective. Based on that, you can determine that, okay, based on all these things, I think I could exit in 5 years. I can exit in 10 years. All these things play a role in your exit. And the way you entered your cap rate, you also want to know at what cap rate are you entering. So you want to really be sure of that cap rate, and because it's going to affect your exit at the time of your of you exiting the property. You also want to consider the market performance. That is where the market cap rate comes into play. You want to know what other similar properties in the same market, how they are performing, how much they are selling per door. You want to know how that is going so that you can be able to structure your exit strategy very well. The final step is for you to, I will not call this a final step. I'll call it the beginning step, because for me, this is the most important. This last stage that I want to talk about, I bring it up, is the first step I do before I close. I hire my first and foremost partners. The partners I'm talking about are your insurance broker, your loan broker, your legal person for both your taxes, your tax consultant. You want to hire all these people I've listed, and this is at the beginning, because before you close on your deals, you want to match up those numbers with them to be sure that, because they're the experts in it, you want to be sure that it aligns. You don't want to almost close a deal and the loan broker comes to tell you that, Bibi, you said your loan amount is 8.7. No, it's actually 6. Do you know that changes the deal entirely? So you also want to know what the debt looks like by having all this right relationship. So before you close, you need to have built this relationship, because it will help you throughout the entire process of your deal. So I've come to the end of my presentation, and okay, so we're going to discuss this really next week, because it entails so many things that is for both closing and for after you've closed and before you close. But what I want to point out in this aspect is things you should get ready before you close. You want to get all this information from the current seller before you close. I'm going to talk extensively about them. There are some accounting items you want to get. You want to get the PMA. PMA signed is the property management agreement. You want to get that signed before you close. There's a period you need to negotiate the terms on your property management with your property management company. Don't just take the form and just sign. Go through it with anybody on your team that understands legal term and negotiate. This might just be the opportunity you have to negotiate. There's a condition we saw in our PMA document. And what was it? That if we decide to fire them, we still owe them like 2 months management fee. And where would that come from? So it means that if I fire you and I bring in another property manager, I will be paying 2 property managers for that 2 months till you leave. So you want to really check those things before you sign. You also want to get the certificate of good standing, certificate of formation. So these are the lists. I'm going to talk about them extensively next week. Utilities, there are some things you need to be doing for the utility before you close, or the same week you close, you need to start transferring those utilities. So next week we'll be talking about post-closing checklist, post-closing acquisition checklist. We'll be going through them. It's very, very important. You need to know those items to ask from the seller, because it's possible that after you close on that deal, the seller will not even respond to you any longer. So you need to take as much items from the seller as quickly as possible before you close on that deal. And that might just be the only time for you. So we're going to go through the post-closing checklist in our next Zoom call. So does anybody, let me hand over to Ify.
Amazing. Do you guys, I didn't see any questions. I was monitoring the chat. I did see people networking there, which was great. Daryl did have a question, but you answered it before I was able to say anything about it. So does anyone have any other questions about what you've heard, what you've seen, your experience so far, who has closed, etc.? You can either type it in the chat or unmute.
Yeah, I just want to say that, these are all, great golden nuggets. It's unbelievable, so many things that I also saw with the last deal that we closed. Unfortunately, there's certain things that were neglected once the PSA was signed, which came back to haunt us. The seller, immediately after the PSA was signed, before we closed, actually removed the property manager and the maintenance people from the site. So there was nobody monitoring. So there was huge delinquency by the time we take over. The occupancy dropped to almost like a break-even point or less. I mean, it was ridiculous. So those are things that I call, you learn it along the way as you're doing it. But if you can hear it in this kind of talks and kind of Zoom conversations, it's great. I mean, take it and run with it and make sure you don't ever forget those things when you're doing your deal. Yeah, so I just want to say how valuable this Zoom call is, especially with due diligence and pre and post closing. Thanks, Bibi and Ify.
Thank you so much, Dr. Holt. This is Dr. Holt. She's one of our partners on most of our deals. So she's saying it firsthand with her experience. The deal she's talking about is not our deal. So so disclaimer right there. It's another deal she partnered with someone else. So,
Yes.
So yeah, we don't have those kind of issues. But really, she informed us about it, and it's very important that you take all these things into cognizance. It's going to come and bite you if you do not handle them.
Awesome.
I have a quick question,
Dave?
Dr.
Okay.
Holt. Could that have been prevented if you had it in the contract that, for example, they had to keep their PM and all those things until it closed? Is that the best way to go about that?
Yes, it could have been prevented. Also, I think we were also at fault because we were not following up with the rent roll before closing. From that gap between the time you sign the PSA and you close is very, very critical. You have to make sure that you're following through and looking at everything. Otherwise, you're going to inherit a lot of garbage that can actually destroy the deal. That deal was almost not closing. But thankfully, we took everything back to the seller. We were almost walking out. It got to a point we had to, say within ourselves, we're not going to care if we lose our EMD at this point because this deal might not make it. So we actually got back some credit from the seller at that point. So yes, it could have been prevented, but we were still able to maneuver. But imagine if the seller says no. If he was not going to give us any credit, and there's tons of delinquencies and bad debt. So what were we supposed to do? We're going to lose our money, the EMD money, and these are things that it could have been prevented.
So let me just chime in what Dr. said. Very, very right, what Dr. said. But another very proactive way of managing those things is by putting it in your PSA. So I typically put in my PSA that this property must remain in this level or better. It must not go below where we are right now. Or let's assume it's not a stable property, maybe it's at 80, 88. Depending on what my agreement is with the seller, I might mandate them to get it to 90 before we close. So you can do a lot of things with your PSA. So you can put in a lot of conditions in your PSA. So if you have that condition and you say, if this property goes below where we are, let's say 95% occupied or 90% occupied, let me tell you the effect of that. You might not be able to close on that deal with your lender because that property becomes unstable and is required. Then an agency debt you might not qualify for that. So you also want to watch it. So you have to put there that during the period of escrow, this property must remain at a stable condition or better. That's one. That's the physical occupancy. You also want to state it also that the economic vacancy, which is the money aspect, you want to, because it's possible that yes, there are people there, but maybe they removed the property manager is not doing anything, so they are not collecting. They're not collecting payment. So you want to also ensure that the economic vacancy as well is not above 10% or 15%, whatever that percentage is for you, because it might not make that deal work at that point. So all these things can be addressed in your PSA, and you can put a condition that if it does, I can walk out and collect my money that's gone hard. These are conditions you can put in your PSA.
Now, Bibi, let me just chime in on that real quick. At some point, you might get a very terrible seller, because I've also been involved in another deal that there's nothing we negotiate or we try to put on the PSA. That seller was just redlining everything, canceling everything that we requested. When you get into that, it just shows you that, walk away. It's not a market seller. You're going to have problem with that seller regardless. If that seller is not amenable to change certain things or does not agree with certain things on your PSA, just walk away.
Yes, there's some items that you can let go, and there's some, this is a red line for me. So when we were closing on Maverick, I remember the conversation we were having with the seller. We were like, this is a breaking point for us. This is a no-no. And the seller too will tell us, this is a no-no, I cannot remove this. So we had to come to a compromise at that point. So there are some things you can let go, but don't let go of the important things that will screw you up at the end.
Awesome. Anyone have any other questions?
I have a question.
Or comments? Who's speaking? Let's see.
Pavi.
Hey, Pavi, how are you?
Is it Pavi or I used to call you Powell.
Yes, my name is Pava, but I go by Pavi.
Okay.
I have a partner here in Massachusetts. We underwrote a deal a few times, and we are moving forward with putting in an offer. The question that I would have on that is that it's a 24-unit property, owned free and clear, no financials. It's a piece of paper financials because the owner has been managing it himself for the past 40 years. So we're gonna do two offers. We're going to do agency offer based on the financial we are given, with the condition of being able to verify and certify the numbers they've given us. And we're gonna do a higher offer closer to what they're asking for, that is seller financing, with terms to be collaborating on. Do you have any kind of thoughts or suggestions or experience in dealing with situation where it could be kind of messy like that?
Yes, I've seen those cases. It's like on the napkin T12. They just scrabble things in a paper and that's it and all that. So in cases like that, this is what I advise people to do. If the seller cannot, we have those type of issues in PA market. We have sellers that have owned properties for so long and they've not just been doing anything, just different things like that. So you want to ensure that, yes, they don't want to do it, then whatever you want to offer to them at that point, that is what the property is worth, because you don't really have any financials to play around. So it's either they go and help you do those things, or you can decide, I'm going to do it, but it's going to be based on what I come up with. Then in your contract, you should put some conditions, because the lender is going to also do their own underwriting. Yes, they're going to do it based on what they feel is appropriate and all that. So you also want to make sure you have conditions in your LOI that if the property's value is not up to this is what he gets, just like what you said you're going to do. If it's up to this, you're going to do. So the onion now is on you. The work now is on you to do your verification, your due diligence at that point, and you offer what you feel is best for him, not what he says the property is worth, because he doesn't even know what the property is worth, because he doesn't have any financial for it. Yeah, so you do the job and say, this is what your property is worth based on what I've seen and all that, then that's it.
Yeah, so the guidance price was 4. We first underwrote it at 3.4 and then got some pricing back from the lenders, some quotes from the lenders, and we rewrote our underwriting to 3.2. So that's kind of where we stand with it, like based on the numbers we are getting. And our draft LOI, we did have the condition that the I forget how I wrote it up, but it was something that it's the contingent on getting acceptable financials by the lender.
Yes, and also getting a financing by the lender as well.
Yeah,
you have to put those contingencies in there. Yeah, very, very
Sounds
important.
good.
So that you have a lot of exit strategy, and your money does not just go hard and you lose it.
I also want to chime in there. Make sure that you do a lot of rent stacks so you know exactly how much those rents are in that neighborhood. So
yeah, we scope
that you're able to push rents, or you're not going to push rents. What's going to be your exit strategy? What's going to be your business plan?
Yeah, so there's definitely a lot of room to grow for rent. There's such a discrepancy that we can't even bring some of the rents up to market value for at least a couple of years to be, human, human and have some morals towards others. So there's definitely room to grow on most apartments for rent. There's some value add that there could be added to the property. It's all gonna take time. Otherwise the property appears to be in good shape, but like I said, it's just the financials that everyone is taking the seller's word for it right now.
Yeah, another thing, does it have lease agreement? You also want to go through the lease agreement to know what the rent is with those tenants. You also want to do that. So that is important. The reason it's not because you're going to use what the literally going to use what the landlord is doing, but you also want to know what exactly is happening and how you can do your own expenses or how the property is performing, because you should know that for your income you're doing some projections, but you want to know where the property is at as of today before you can now do your projection. So you have to be very careful when a you're getting those kind of incomplete information and all that, take your time, do your own research and know if there will be a lot of discrepancies, but you want to limit it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Congrats, Pravi.
Thanks, Ify.
Mm-hmm.
Glad I ran into you a few months ago.
Yeah.
If
Does
he's
anyone else have? Oh, sorry, Dr. Ho, what did you say?
no, I was just joking. I say if he's everywhere.
Aye. Any other questions, guys? We are actually on time to wrap up now. It's about a minute to the hour. So if there are no other questions, we will bid you good night. Thank you all for coming. Thank you so much. And thank you for all the
Night.
questions and the comments and the participation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys, I
Thank
enjoyed
you.
it. Looking
Have a good
forward to the
night.
next one.
Of course.